Welcome to the African History Network show right here on 9 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Friday, November 27th, 2020, and we're live. How's everybody doing today? Hope you had a good holiday or Thanksgiving or Misgiving Day or whatever you celebrate. We did some posts on our Facebook page, the African History Network, Thursday, November 26th. Which nationally, traditionally, is Thanksgiving, the fourth Thursday of each November. The fourth Thursday of November is celebrated as Thanksgiving nationwide. And Misgiving Day was, to my knowledge, that was a term coined by Dr. Shaka Musa Barashango. Dr. Shaka Musa Barashango wrote a book, The African People and Holidays and Mental Genocide. Book 1 and book 2, okay, in these two books that I have here that for those watching on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, African People and European Holidays and Mental Genocide by Dr. Ishaka Musa Barashango. All right, so on today's show, Wednesday, our Wednesday show, I said that I would do a broadcast on Thursday then with the history of Thanksgiving, right? Well, Thursday came and went, and I've done the presentations before, things like that. But Thursday came and went, and I was, reading and doing research, and it didn't happen Thursday. Okay, it just didn't happen Thursday. So if you look at Thursday and said, "Oh, I missed it," no, you're not. It ain't happened. Okay, I was tired. All right, so we're doing it, and I was going to do it earlier today, but it ain't happened earlier today either. So we're going to do it here. Okay. So we're going to have a real history lesson on today's show. Everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. We're broadcasting on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio, WFDF here in Detroit. So you can listen on your AM radio dial, or you can download the iHeartRadio app, and search for 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, and you can listen to all the shows there. Reverend Al Sharpton, Michael Bason's on at 1 a.m. I think they have Michael Bason on 1 a.m. And then we're on Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time, the African History Network show. And we're still on Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I've been in that time slot on Sundays for 4 years. Okay, so we've been doing Monday through Friday here since October 12th, 2020. Okay, so on today's show, what we're going to deal with is we're going to deal with the real history of Thanksgiving. The real history of Thanksgiving, but it's going to be from the Native American perspective. So usually when we hear the history of Thanksgiving, it's from the perspective of the descendants of the winners. It's from the perspective of the descendants of Europeans. Usually we don't hear the history of Thanksgiving from the Native American perspective. Okay, because it was down from there for Native Americans. All right, and also we're going to talk about the National Day of Mourning. Okay, so we'll deal with the real history of the first Thanksgiving from Native American perspective, from the Native American perspective, and the National Day of Mourning. So we post, every Thanksgiving Day, we post articles dealing with the National Day of Mourning and the commemorations that take place in Plymouth, Massachusetts, that Native Americans hold. They don't celebrate Thanksgiving. They celebrate a National Day of Mourning. Okay, not MORNING. Morning, like good morning. No, the National Day of Mourning, MOURNING. Okay, at sadness. All right, so we'll talk about that as well. All right, now on the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world because correct role and behavior. What you do for yourself, you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his actions or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We deal with current events in history, politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter, text word KEMET, KEMET. To sign up for our email newsletter, text word KEMET, KEMET, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter, and also at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can sign up for a newsletter there as well. If you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, paypal.me/the AHN Show. All right. So let's look at some of this history. And first, we're going to look at an article from this is from history.com. And I deal with this history each year. But this is a good article from history.com dealing with the history of Thanksgiving. And this one is Thanksgiving 2020. So Thanksgiving is a national holiday in the United States. And Thanksgiving 2020 occurred on Thursday, November 26th. Now, in 1621, in Plymouth, the Plymouth colonists in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and the Wampanoag Native Americans shared an autumn harvest feast, that is acknowledged today as one of the first Thanksgiving celebrations in the colonies. For more than 2 centuries, days of Thanksgiving were celebrated by individual colonies and states. Now, it was not until 1863, during the Civil War, that President Abraham Lincoln proclaimed a national Thanksgiving Day, to be held each November. So that's Abraham Lincoln, 1863, during the Civil War, who proclaimed a national Thanksgiving Day to be held each November. And that largely came from the activism of a woman named Sarah Josepha Hale, who went on a letter writing campaign and a national campaign lobbying people in the Senate and the Congress, things like this, and the president to have a national day of thanks. Sarah Josepha Hale is also the woman who wrote the poem "Mary Had a Little Lamb." Okay, so we'll talk about her a little bit as well. So when we look at this background history, in September 1620, a small ship called the Mayflower left Plymouth, England, carrying 102 passengers. There were 102 passengers plus 26 crewmen for a total of 128 people. Okay, so there was an assortment of religious separatists seeking a new home where they could freely practice their faith. And there were other individuals who were lured by the promise of prosperity and land ownership in the New World. They wanted to strike out and make a fortune. So everybody on the Mayflower was not seeking religious freedom. Okay, some of them were seeking fame and fortune. All right, there was only about 35 or 36 of only about 35 or 36 people on the Mayflower would be what we would consider the Puritans, okay, and those really seeking religious freedom, okay. Everybody was that on the Mayflower. Now, after a treacherous and uncomfortable crossing that lasted 66 days, they dropped anchor near the tip of Cape Cod, far north of their intended destination at the mouth of the Hudson River. 1 month later, the Mayflower crossed Massachusetts Bay, where the Pilgrims, as they are now commonly known, began the work of establishing a village at Plymouth. So we already know you already have the Virginia colony at this point, 1607. And we already know August 20th, 1619 is already taking place in Virginia, where you have the 20 and odd Africans on the White Lion pirate ship. The White Lion pirate ship, and these 20 and odd Africans are going to be traded for food and water and supplies. And we hear this revisionist history told this is when African people first came to this land. Now, we know even though that history did happen, August 20th, 1619. Okay, on that Dutch, it was an English pirate ship, because those Africans were kidnapped from what we call present day Angola. Originally, it's about 350 of them. And it was really the ship is going to be hijacked by the English, and they're going to be put on. It's about 50 Africans put on two English pirate ships, the White Lion and the Treasurer. Okay, and the White Lion and the Treasurer are going to come into Virginia. And on August 20th, 1619, you have 29 Africans who are going to be exchanged for food and water and supplies. Okay. But African people had already been here going back tens of thousands of years. And you read The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence by Dr. David Imhotep. This book right here. Okay. You read this book and he deals with this history, the Khoisan, who have the oldest DNA on the planet and go all around the world. The Khoisan are the ancestors that I knew in the Twa. The Khoisan were here in the territory we today call South Carolina and Georgia, going back at least 51,700 years ago. Okay. So we have to deal with a chronology of this history. His new book should be out in either, I guess, December or January. I just interviewed him October 12th, and he's finishing up his new book, The First Americans Were Africans Revisited. Okay, so we have to understand the chronology of this history as well. And also, this is Native American Heritage Day also. So happy Native American Heritage Day. We did a Facebook post about that. The day after Thanksgiving is Native American Heritage Day. And this is also Native American Heritage Month as well. Okay, so we have 1619, 1620, 1621. Okay. Now, so after a treacherous and uncomfortable crossing that lasted 66 days, they dropped anchor near the tip of Cape Cod, far north of their intended destination at the mouth of the Hudson River. 1 month later, the Mayflower crossed Massachusetts Bay, where the Pilgrims, as they are now commonly known, began the work of establishing a village at Plymouth. Now, throughout that first brutal winter, most of the colonists remained on board the ship, where they suffered from exposure, scurvy, and outbreaks of contagious disease. Only half of the Mayflower's original passengers and crew lived to see their first New England spring. In March of 1621, the remaining settlers moved ashore, where they received an astonishing visit from an Abenaki Native American who greeted them in English. An Abenaki Native American who greeted them in English. Abenaki. Okay. And an Abenaki Native American who greeted them in English. Now, several days later, this Abenaki Native American would return with another Native American named Squanto. Squanto was a very, very important person in really the history of this country. And when you deal with the first, what we call in our mind and what's been taught to us, what we picture as the first Thanksgiving in November 1621. Squanto is pivotal to the survival of the Pilgrims or the Europeans here in that Plymouth colony. And how should I put this to be politically correct on radio? If the poll of Native Americans, those that had been brainwashed by European society, because there were Native American schools where white people set up schools for Native American children to go to be educated in how to be white. In the Carlisle School was like the most popular one. So they were forbidden to speak their language there. Their hair was cut. They wore Western clothing. They couldn't wear Native American clothing. So as long as you're not dealing with people who were descendants of like Native Americans who were Europeanized, if you did a poll of Native Americans who still hold on to their culture and have their names and speak their language, they may want a do-over. I'm just saying, They, I think that's as politely as I can put it. They may want to do over on some of this stuff right here. But anyway, so Squanto is going to teach these Europeans how to grow corn and how to fish and how to survive. Okay. So the Abenaki Native American is going to return with another Native American named Squanto, who was a member of the Pawtuxet tribe, Pawtuxet, the Pawtuxet tribe, who had been kidnapped by an English sea captain and sold into slavery before escaping to London and returning to his homeland on an exploratory expedition. Okay, so Squanto was one. So you're gonna, when you study this history, you're gonna have Native Americans who were captured from this land here and enslaved and taken into England. That's going to happen also. You're going to have Africans who are captured from Africa and brought to this land, and some are taken into the Caribbean first for the seasoning plantations. They're taken into the Caribbean first, then brought here. You're going to have some that come straight here, some Africans, but you're going to also have Native Americans who are captured from here and taken into England because this was an English colony. Okay, the 13 colonies, these were English colonies. You're going to also have some African people who were captured. You're going to have some Moors, who those who may classify as Moors, but they're African people as well. They're going to be captured from here and taken into England. So the mistake that people make oftentimes, and we're coming up on the break. How much time before the break, Mike? The mistake that people make, 1 minute before the break. The mistake that people make is they look at the history linear, and they think it just happened one way. No, it didn't just happen one way. You have people being captured from here, taken into England, taken into Europe, and when you're going to have you have what's happening with the Dutch, you have it happening with Spanish, with the Spanish coming here as well, and you also, even before 1620 or 1621 with the Mayflower. Before that, the Spanish are here in this land in 1526 in the territory that's South Carolina, Georgia. They're taking Africans in to that territory in 1526, and those Africans are going to overthrow them and basically disappear. But that's 1526. So you have different things that are going to happen, largely at the same time. It's not just one way that we're taught to think of this history. All right, you listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast in your social media forums. Invite your friend in also. If you like this type of information, you could donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also PayPal. PayPal.me/the AHN show, and also through at our website, historynetwork.com. Stand by, one commercial break. For 21st, the Black History 101 Museum carried on the rich legacy Black Museum movement in America by showcasing origin of the Black experience at colleges, universities, K-12 corporations, conferences, and cultural events, making it traversed Black history exhibit in American history. Dr. Khalid El is the founder of the Black History 101 Mobile Museum, and he is a highly sought after public on topics of Black history, social studies, education, hip hop, and race relations. Dr. Khalid was named makers for NBC's Erase the campaign and listed as one of the 100 men distinction for Black enterprise. Recently founded the Michigan Hip Hop Archive on the campus of Western Michigan University. The 101 Mobile Museum is currently scheduling and virtual ignition. For more information, please contact Dr. Al-Hakim directly, 313-644-197, 313-645-4117, website at blackhistorymuseum.com. That's blackhistorymuseum.com. You can also email him at b310 yahoo.com, history101 at yahoo.com.
So my name is Kenya K. Stevens. I teach a class called the Diva Deep Dive. I take women from the small clitoral orgasm, African women call that the little girl orgasm, and bring them all the way up through the deep spot, G-spot, chakra, and full body orgasms. That is the Diva Deep Dive, and that's what we want you to have right now. The Diva Deep Dive is one of 71 courses found at Progressive Love Academy. You can get there by going to bit.ly/Diva Deep Dive, and I'm giving 50% off the course. It is Black Friday. It is Cyber Monday. It's time for everybody to have an orgasm. Get an orgasm for, for your holiday season. Come on. So that's it. Diva Deep Dive.
Melanin Media is an independently Black-owned film company. We specialize in producing culturally Black films and videos at melanizedmedia.com. Join us every Sunday for Melanized Nights, where we screen a soul-conscious documentary film or Black temptation. That's every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Visit melanizedmedia.com to learn more. Register. That's MLANEYES media.peace.
Do you have an idea or business that requires app development or thinking of moving your IT resources to the cloud? We have post-paid and profit-sharing plans for unique ideas or profitable businesses. Who can take advantage of this unique program? Entrepreneurs with unique ideas, startups, small to medium businesses. Contact us 267-209-0352.
Visit nomadicsystems.net today. All right, now African American business owners posting name is here on the thread of the broadcast, and email us at customers@africanhistorynetwork.com, customers@africanhistorynetwork.com. We'll let you know how you can advertise African History Network. Okay. All right, everybody stand by. Let's see. We have Yusef. We have Yusef. We have Donna, Erica, Willie, Swollen, Nini, Ronnie, Jamal. Just a few of the people watching. All right, they come back from the break. Welcome back to the African History Network show right on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Real. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Friday, November 27th, 2020. We are live. Hope everybody's doing well. Everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. We're broadcasting on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. Also on my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep. Then we're broadcasting on 9:10 a.m. Superstation's Facebook fan page as well. And then you can listen to shows on iHeartRadio. You can listen live to 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF here in Detroit. So you can listen on your AM radio, or you can listen by downloading iHeartRadio app and searching for 9:10 a.m. Superstation WFDF. Okay. And then also on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your audio podcast from, search for the African History Network Show, the African History Network Show, because we have a page there on iHeartRadio and Stitcher and iTunes, and you can listen to our audio podcasts of our shows there. You can download the shows also. Okay. All right. So let's go back to this history lesson. We're dealing with the real history of Thanksgiving, the real history of Thanksgiving from the Native American perspective, and a national day of mourning, the real history of Thanksgiving from the Native American perspective, and the national day of mourning. All right. And we know also that this is Native American Heritage Month, and this is the day after Thanksgiving is also Native American Heritage Day. All right, so happy Native American Heritage Day. And in many cases, that applies to some African Americans, because some of us have Native American ancestry. I'm one of them, Cherokee and Blackfoot on my mother's side of the family. My mother's from Tennessee. So there's a deep history there. Unfortunately, when we talk about African Americans, too many of us just think of slave history, and that's a misunderstanding of history. Okay, so let's continue. All right. So you're going to have a Native American named Squanto, who was a member of the Pawtuxet Native American tribe. He had been kidnapped by an English sea captain and sold into slavery before escaping to London and returning to his homeland on an exploratory expedition. Now, Squanto was going to teach these Europeans in Plymouth, what we know as pilgrims. He's going to teach them how to cultivate corn, how to extract sap from maple trees, how to catch fish in the rivers and avoid poisonous plants. So these Europeans had been weakened by malnutrition and illness. Half of them who originally made the voyage are going to die over that winter going into the spring of 1621. Now, so Squanto also helped the settlers forge an alliance with the Wampanoag Nation of Native Americans, which was a local Native American nation there, or what we call a tribe. Okay, so he's going to Squanto, who was Pawtuxet, of the Pawtuxet Native American nation. He's going to help these settlers forge an alliance. It was actually like a treaty with the Wampanoag Native American nation, and that alliance would endure for more than 50 years and remains as one of the sole examples of harmony between European colonists and Native Americans. Okay, because be quite honest with you, it all is pretty much gonna go downhill when Europeans come here. I'm just, I don't mean to be, and it is what it is. I mean, it's pretty much gonna go downhill. Okay, so when I hear people talk about making America great again, I'm like, you sure about that? When I hear, okay, so what I say may go outside the circumference of some people's awareness. Just because you never heard it before, disagree with it, or don't like it, does not mean it's not true. It just means you have to do some research to understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so when I hear people talk about make America great again, I have to ask the question, okay, what period of time of history are you talking about? Because I talk about some history when it was great, but that's before this happened. So what period of time of history are you talking about? Okay. All right. Anyway, okay. So in November 1621, after the Pilgrims' first corn harvest proved successful, Governor William Bradford organized a celebratory feast and invited a group of the fledgling colony's Native American allies, including the Wampanoag chief Massasoit. Okay, so Massasoit was the chief of the Wampanoag Nation. And when you study the National Day of Mourning that takes place in Plymouth, Massachusetts, they usually hold, or at some point, they're going to have that commemoration at a statue of Massasoit. Okay, the Wampanoag Nation chief. All right. Now, so this November 1621 celebratory feast is remembered as America's quote unquote first Thanksgiving. It's remembered as America's quote unquote first Thanksgiving. And if we turn on the screen share, so those watching on our Facebook fan page, The African Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, you can see this. If you're listening to 9:10 a.m. station WFDF, you still listen to the radio, but you can log on and on Facebook, and you can see us as well. Okay, so keep listening to the radio, but you can watch us here and just turn the volume on the computer, Facebook and YouTube. But if we look at the team, okay, this has been shown to us as the first Thanksgiving, for what we know as Thanksgiving, right? This is but the way it has not been taught. Okay, you see people bringing food to the Americans, and they're there in harmony. The neighbors did eat, but they invited. That's not what happened. Okay, all right, we're gonna get to that here in just a minute. All right, so let's continue here. So that painting that we see depicting the feast in 1621, that's what we have been taught of as America's first Thanksgiving. Although the Pilgrims themselves may not have used the term Thanksgiving at the time, the festival lasted for 3 days. Okay, it's going to be a 3-day festival that they're going to have. Now, while no record exists of the first Thanksgiving exact menu, much of what we know about what happened at the first Thanksgiving comes from Pilgrim chronicler Edward Winslow. Pilgrim chronicler Edward Winslow, who wrote, quote, "Our harvest being gotten in, our governor sent 4 men on fowling." Okay, searching the hunt for pheasants, birds. 4 men on fowling, that so we might after a special manner rejoice together after we had gathered the fruits of our labors. They 4, F-O-U-R, they 4 in one day killed as much fowl as with a little help beside served the company almost a week. At which time, amongst other recreations, we exercised our arms, firearms, so shooting firearms. We exercised our arms, many of the Indians coming amongst us, and amongst the rest, their greatest king, Massasoit, with some 90 men, their greatest king, Massasoit, with some 90 men, whom 3 days we entertained and feasted. And they went out and killed 5 deer, or what they would refer to as venison, 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 which they brought to the plantation and bestowed on our governor and upon the captain and others. And although it be not always so plentiful as it was at this time with us, yet by the goodness of God, we are so far from want that we often wish you partakers of our plenty, that we often wish you partakers of our plenty, end quote. Now, historians have suggested that many of the dishes were likely prepared using traditional Native American spices and cooking methods. Because the Pilgrims had no oven and the Mayflower's sugar supply had dwindled by the fall of 1621, the meal did not feature pies, cakes, or other desserts, which have become a hallmark of contemporary celebrations. Now, Pilgrims held their second Thanksgiving celebration in 1623 to mark the end of a long drought that had happened the years that had threatened the year's harvest and prompted Governor Bradford to call for a religious fast. Days of fasting and Thanksgiving on an annual or occasional basis became common practice in other New England settlements as well. Okay, now during the American Revolution, the Continental Congress designated 1 or more days of Thanksgiving a year during the American Revolution, which is 1775 to 1783. The Continental Congress designated 1 or more days of Thanksgiving a year. And in 1789, George Washington issued the first Thanksgiving proclamation by the national government of the United States. Okay, but this was not an annual Thanksgiving. Okay, at this point, it's not going to be an annual Thanksgiving. That's going to come in 1863. Now, in this proclamation of a national Thanksgiving, George Washington called upon Americans to express their gratitude for the happy conclusion to the country's war, the war of independence, and the successful ratification of the U.S. Constitution, which is going to be ratified in 1789. Okay, his successor, John Adams, who was the second president, John Adams and James Madison also designated days of thanks during presidencies. Now, in 1817, New York became the first of several states to officially adopt an annual Thanksgiving holiday. Okay, 1817, New York. Each celebrated it on a different day, however, and the American South remained largely unfamiliar with the tradition. In 1827, the noted magazine editor and prolific writer Sarah Josepha Hale, H-A-L, Sarah Josepha Hale, who is an author, and she is the woman who wrote the nursery rhyme, Mary Had a Little Lamb. Sarah Josepha Hale launched a campaign to establish Thanksgiving as a national holiday. So what happened was she read writings about what we have been taught to think of as the first Thanksgiving in 1621. She read writings about that, was inspired by that to have a national day of thanks. So she spent 36 years on this crusade to get a national day of thanks. Okay. And for 36 years, she published numerous editorials and sent scores of letters to governors, senators, presidents, and other politicians, earning her the nickname, the Mother of Thanksgiving. And actually, let me see here. We have, if I pull up we go to the slide, presentation. We'll show you a picture of Sarah Josepha Hale as well. So watching on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, and on YouTube, you can see this. If you're watching on 10 a.m. station, that's fine. You can go back and watch this later. That's fine. Keep listening to the video. Let me see. Let's flip over to slide here. Should be able to see this. All right, just here. Okay. So here is a painting of Sarah Josepha Hale. In 1827, she started to get politicians to have a national day of thanks. All right. Abraham Lincoln finally her request in 1963 at the height of war, and in a proclamation to ask God and to commit his tender all those who have become widows, orphans, or sufferers in the inevitable civil strife. Okay. Abraham Lincoln III had the civil proclamation entreating all to ask God to, quote, to his tender care all those who become widows, orphans, mourners, sufferers in the strife, end quote, and to heal those of the nation, the wounds, nation, end quote. So this is during the Civil War, which is 1861-85. Lincoln thing for the final Thursday in November, and it was celebrated every year until 1939. Now, in 1939, President Franklin D. Roosevelt, during the Great Depression, moved the holiday up 1 week in an attempt to spur retail sales during the Great Depression. Roosevelt's plan, known derisively as Franksgiving, was met with passionate opposition, and in 1941, President Roosevelt reluctantly signed a bill making Thanksgiving the fourth Thursday in November. When it was celebrated originally, Civil War is going to be October 1863. October 1863 is when you're going to National Day of Thanks, coming from a proclamation from Abraham Lincoln. Okay, so we go from November 1621, with what we've been taught was the first Thanksgiving in Plymouth, Massachusetts. We go to a day of thanks under George Washington. We go to New York, 1817, New York becoming the first of several states to officially adopt the annual Thanksgiving holiday. We go to 1827, Sarah Josepha Hale, and starting this 36-year campaign to have a National Day of Thanks. We go to October 1863 with the National Day of Thanks during the Civil War. We go to 1939, President Roosevelt moving Thanksgiving one Thursday earlier to give more time for shoppers before Christmas. Okay. And then we go to 1941, President Roosevelt signing a deal to make Thanksgiving the fourth Thursday in November. All right. Now, if we look at so check out this article here from history.com, which is the official website of the History Channel. There's more there to read. Thanksgiving 2020. This gives some of the history of Thanksgiving and some of the Thanksgiving traditions, like the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade and different things like that. Okay, so you can check that out. We'll post the link here on the thread of the broadcast. If we look at the Native American perspective of what happened, okay, we talked a little bit about the Wampanoag Nation and Massasoit, the Wampanoag chief, and we talk about Squanto, who was instrumental to saving these Europeans. And once again, we got to ask the question: you talk about make America great again. We have to ask, what period of time are you talking about? America was great. I can think of some periods of time when this land here was great. Now, this is before 1620. This is before 1607. So, it is what it is. If we look at this article here from Indian Country Today, which is a Native American publication, it's entitled, "What Really Happened at the First Thanksgiving?" What really happened at the first Thanksgiving? The Wampanoag side of the tale. The Wampanoag side of the tale. And when you had when Trump was given a campaign rally, and it was the South Dakota or North Dakota, he was on sacred Native American land. He did not have permission to be on that land. Okay, you go back and there were stories about this. I remember MSNBC was there covering this, and he was in violation of treaties. Okay, because based upon the treaties, they have to get American people who are not of that Native American nation had to get permission from the Native American nation to be on that land. So he's in violation of the treaties, but they don't. Some of them don't care about treaties. Okay, and I remember on MSNBC, the reporter's name is Shaquille Brewster, I think is his last name. He said that you had Trump supporters who were saying that something that felt like the Native Americans were lying or something like that about the treaties. He said that this history is not taught in schools. Okay, this history is not taught in schools. So a lot of people don't know that history of the land and how the land was stolen from Native Americans, etc. All right. Yeah, Shaquille Brewster is his name. MSNBC. Okay, so if we look at this, this article it's an interview with someone with the Wampanoag Nation. Okay, and it starts out saying, when you hear about the Pilgrims and the Indians harmoniously sharing the first Thanksgiving in 1621, the Indians referred to so generically are the ancestors of the contemporary members of the Wampanoag Nation. As the story commonly goes, the Pilgrims who sailed from England, they sailed from Plymouth, England. Okay, that's why you have a Plymouth, Massachusetts. They sailed from Plymouth, England. The Pilgrims who sailed from, let me blow this up here. Okay, the Pilgrims who sailed from Plymouth, England on the Mayflower and landed at what became Plymouth, Massachusetts in 1620 had a good harvest the next year. So Plymouth Governor William Bradford organized a feast to celebrate the harvest and invited a group of Native American allies, including the Wampanoag chief Massasoit, to the party. Okay, the feast lasted 3 days, and according to chronicler Edward Winslow, Governor Bradford sent 4 men on a fowling mission to prepare for the feast, and the Wampanoag guests brought 5 deer to the party. And ever since then, the story goes, Americans have celebrated Thanksgiving on the 4th Thursday of November. Not exactly. Ramona Peters, the Mahi Wampanoag tribe's tribal historic preservation officer, told Indian Country, okay, Indian Today Media Network, in a conversation on the day before Thanksgiving in 2012, which was 390 years since that mythological first Thanksgiving. So that first Thanksgiving, that painting that we see, even though Native Americans did eat with the settlers, how it has been taught to us is mythological. That's not how it happened. Okay. So what we know, what we're taught is, so the question that's being asked is, we know what we're taught in mainstream media and in schools is made up. What's the Wampanoag version of what happened? So Ramona Peters said, yeah, it was made up. It was Abraham Lincoln who used the theme of pilgrims and Indians eating happily together. He was trying to calm things down during the Civil War when people were divided. It was like a nice unity. Okay. So she's asked the question. So it was a political thing. Ramona Peters says, yes, it was public relations. It's kind of genius in a way to get people to sit down and eat dinner together. Families were divided during the Civil War. All right. You have the 11 states seceding from the Union, going to war with the Union. You have 600,000 people die in the Civil War. So, yeah, you had sometimes you hear them say it was a nation against itself, brother against brother, brother against brother, etc. So what really happened with what we're told was the first Thanksgiving in November 1621? She said, we made a treaty. The leader of our nation at the time, Yellow Feather Massasoit, okay, Yellow Osmequin Massasoit, Oasmeequin, made a treaty with John Carver, the first governor of the Plymouth colony. They elected an official. They elected an official while they were still on the boat, okay, on the Mayflower. They had their charter. They were still under the jurisdiction of the King of England. At least that's what they told us. Okay. So you had the that was the Plymouth Trading Company, if I remember correctly. They had to get the charters were given by the King of England for like the London Trading Company and the Plymouth Trading Company to voyage out, okay, and set up these colonies. Okay, so they could not, so they couldn't make a treaty for a boatload of people. So they made a treaty between the two nations, England and the Wampanoag Nation. Okay. So the treaty basically said that the Wampanoag Nation would let the settlers be there on the Wampanoag land, and we would protect them against any enemies, and they would protect us from any of our enemies. Okay. So it was basically an agreement to, you watch our back, we'll watch yours. All right. The 2011 Native American $1 coin commemorates the 1621 treaty between the Wampanoag Nation and the Pilgrims of the Plymouth colony. Okay, there's a 2011 Native American $1 coin that commemorates this 1621 treaty. And, you know, you may have some people that may want to, some Native Americans that may want to do a do-over. And I can't say I blame them. Well, this is plus downhill from here. So it was basically an I'll watch your back, you'll watch mine agreement. Later on, we collaborated on jurisdictions and creating a system so that we could live together. Okay. Now, what's the Wampanoag version of the 1621 meal? Okay. That they had there November 16th, that they ate there November 1621. You've probably heard the story of how Squanto, who was Pawtuxet, how Squanto assisted in their planting of corn. So this was their first successful harvest, and they were celebrating the harvest and planning a day of their own Thanksgiving. And it's kind of like what some of the Arab nations do when they celebrate by shooting guns in the air. So this is what was going on over in Plymouth. In the Plymouth colony, the settlers are having this 3-day feast, and they're shooting guns off in the air, as Edward Winslow chronicled. Okay, what happens is the Wampanoag Nation, they hear this shooting going on. They don't know a feast is take place. So Massasoit, the Wampanoag chief, rounds up 90 of his warriors, and they go to see what's taking place, what's happening, because they have this treaty, and they hear shooting, so they're trying to find out what's going on. All right. So Massasoit gathered up 90 warriors and showed up at Plymouth prepared to engage. They're prepared to go to war to protect the settlers. And again, some people, may want to do over on this one here, but hey. So if that was so they're trying to find out what's going on in case there's a war taking place or the settlers are being attacked. Now, if they were so they didn't know, and it was a fact-finding mission. They didn't know what was happening, and it was a fact-finding mission. So when Massasoit and the 90 warriors of the Wampanoag Nation arrive, it's explained through a translator that they were celebrating the harvest. The settlers in the Plymouth colony was celebrating the harvest. So we decided to stay and make sure that was true. The Wampanoag Native Americans are going to stay and to find out if this is really what's taking place. Okay. Because they had seen in other landings, like Captain John Smith and even the Vikings had been there as well. So they wanted to make sure that everything was on the up and up. Okay. So they stayed. So there are 90 men there are 90 men there. And at the time, they think there were only about 23 survivors of the Mayflower ship at this time, November 1621. Okay. So she said, so you can imagine the fear. You have armed natives who are camping nearby, armed Native Americans who are camping nearby, and they have the colonists who are always vulnerable to the new land, new creatures, even trees. There were no such trees in England at the time. And one of the things Squanto is going to do is teach them which plants not to eat because they're poisonous as well. So she went on to say, people forget that they had just landed here, and this coastline looked very different from what it looks like now. And their culture, new foods, they were afraid to eat a lot of things. So they were very vulnerable, and we did protect them. The Wampanoag Nation did protect these settlers, not just support them, we protected them. You can see throughout their journals that they were always nervous, and unfortunately, when they were nervous, they were very aggressive. Okay. So the next question she was asked was, so the Pilgrims did not invite the Wampanoag to sit down and eat turkey and drink some beer. Okay. So that's, even though we see that painting from 1621, it's really a misrepresentation of what happened. Okay. She said people did eat together, but not in what is portrayed as the first Thanksgiving. It was our homeland and our territory, and we walked all through their villages all the time. It was our homeland and our territory, and we walked all through their villages all the time. The villages of the Plymouth colony of the settlers. The difference in how they behaved, how they ate, how they prepared things, a lot for both cultures to work with each other. But in those days, it was sort of like today when you go out on a boat in the open sea and you see another boat and everyone is waving and very friendly. It's because they're vulnerable and need to rely on each other if something happens. In those days, the English really needed to rely on us. And yes, they were polite. They were polite as best they could be, but they regarded us as savages nonetheless. And when you read some of the writings from some of the Plymouth colonists, they refer to the Native Americans as savages. They really don't have a lot of good things to say about them. Okay. So, did you eat together so the question was asked, did you eat together sometimes, but not at the legendary Thanksgiving meal? No, we were there for we were there for days. And this is another thing. We give thanks more than once a year in formal ceremony for different for different seasons, for the green corn Thanksgiving, for the arrival of certain fish species, whales, the first snow, our new year in May. There are so many ceremonies, and I think most cultures have similar traditions. So she's saying from the Native American culture, they ain't just have one day of thanks. They have different celebrations of thanks. Okay. All right. We're going to continue this discussion on our social media platforms. We'll continue this broadcast, the African History Network on Facebook and Michael Imhotep on YouTube. Donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN Cash App, and also through PayPal.me/the AHN show. Right now, it's correct. Wrong. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you Sunday night. Peace. Thanks for tuning in. All right, stand by. Have you tasted the world famous Frowny Brownie yet from Bakery? If not, waiting. They are vegan, gluten-free, and free of allergens. While eating their no brownies, the fabulous Miss Tabitha Brown said, "That's very good." You know, if she says that, they are. The first black-owned, big agent-free mix company. Bakery.com. Bakery to order no Frowny Brownie mix today. Are you ready for a black economy? Well, Happy, the role of economics in the development of civilization, is a brand new documentary that will set on a new knowledge and in the Happy film gives viewers a snippet of our economic history from the dawn of civilization right today. Underlying theme of the film is the interrelation between central units of economics, politics, and Happy brings the brightest and most prolific minds in the philosophy, history, business, and ethics, such as Dr. Leonard Jeffrey, James Small, Dr. Jules, Dr. Zahi Hawass, and Jabbar, and more. Together, they deliver a message of cooperative economics, financial independence, and a promise can all be inspired by. The film is on sale now. It's streaming on digital formats. For DVD, visit happyfilm.com. Use offer HN for a 10% discount. The books Ivy and Catalina visit Sellville and Softball Adventure from authors Sid Carujo and Shanine Carujo. In Ivy and Catalina visit Sellville, will join Ivy tour the small town of Sellville with their grandparents to learn about the world of science. Girls will learn the structure functions of the cell. This book provides analogies that make sail easy for kids. The book Brooklyn Softball Adventures takes readers on the journey with Brew her first 2 seasons of playing softball. Through facing adversity and her teams build their confidence and learn of the game. Learn to new things and never accept defeat. Ivy and Catalina visit Sellville is Sydney Carujo and Brooklyn's Softball Adventures is by Brooklyn Carujo and Shanine Dowles Carujo. Books are available at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Chameleon.com, and Target. Stand by, everybody. Okay, let's continue here. All right, so we do an hour on 9-10 Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight, and then Sundays we're on for 2 hours. We'll do 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Monday through Friday, and then Sundays 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. How's everybody doing? You can, if you like type of information, you can donate to the African History Network. $ the AHN show through Cash App. $ the AHN show through Cash App, and then also through PayPal. PayPal.me/the AHN show. PayPal.me/the AHN show, and then also at our website AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay. All right, let's continue here. And all of my DVD lectures are at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com as well. And we have digital downloads there also. You can advertise with the African History Network. We have a special promotion going on right now for a couple more days. Email us at customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. African business owners, post the name of your business here under the broadcast. Okay. Let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. We create a video commercial for you and an audio commercial. Okay, no additional charge, and we air your video commercial when we rebroadcast these shows on our social media platform. And your audio commercial plays in the audio podcast of our shows also. All right, listen, you're here. All right, stand by. Okay. All right, so when you study Native American culture as well as different African cultures, okay, we had numerous days of thanks, and Native Americans had numerous days of thanks. They didn't just have one day of thanks. All right. That's something coming from, we see this like in American culture. It's one big day of thanks. All right. So they're going to have various days of thanks, the different sins for the green corn. They have the green corn Thanksgiving, the arrival of certain fish species, whales, the first snow, the New Year in May, etc. Right now, the question was asked: what are the Mashpee, Wampanoag Native Americans taught about Thanksgiving today? What are the Mashpee, Wampanoag Native Americans taught about Thanksgiving today? Okay. Ramona Peters, who is the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe's tribal historic preservation officer, she said, most of us are taught about the friendly Indians and the friendly pilgrims, people sitting down and eating together. Really don't go into any depth about that time period and what was going on in 1620. It was a whole different mindset. There was always focus on food because people had to work hard to go out and forage for food, not the way it is now. I can remember being in Oklahoma amongst a lot of different tribal people when I was in junior college, and Thanksgiving was coming around and I couldn't come home. It was far and too expensive, and people were talking about Thanksgiving and the Indians. And I said, we're the Wampanoags. They didn't know what the Wampanoags, who the Wampanoags were. See, we're not even taught what kind of Indians helped or protected the pilgrims. In school, they're just taught Indians. They're not even taught which Native American nation it was. So hopefully, she said, hopefully in the future, at least for Americans, we do need to get a lot brighter about other people. So the next question was asked. So basically today, the Wampanoag celebrate Thanksgiving the way Americans celebrated, or celebrated as Americans. And Ramona Peters said, yes, but there's another element to this that needs to be noted as well. The Puritans believed in Jehovah, and they listened for Jehovah's directions on a daily basis and trying to figure out what would please their God. So for Americans, for the most part, there's a Christian element to Thanksgiving. So formal prayer, and some families will go around the table and ask, what are you thankful for this year? In Mashpee Wampanoag families, we make offerings of tobacco. For traditionalists, we give thanks to our first mother, our human mother, and to Mother Earth. Okay, for traditionalists, we give thanks to our first mother, our human mother, and to Mother Earth. Then, because there's no real time, no real time to it, you embrace your thanks in passing them into the tobacco without necessarily speaking out loud, but to actually give your mind and spirit together, thankful for so many things. Unfortunately, because we're trapped in this cash economy, this cash economy and this 9-to-5 schedule, we can't spend the normal amount of time on ceremonies, which would last 4 days for a proper Thanksgiving. All right. So she was asked a question: do you regard Thanksgiving as a positive thing? Do you regard Thanksgiving as a positive thing? As a concept, a heartfelt Thanksgiving is very important to me as a person. It's important that we give thanks. For me, it's a state of being. You want to live in a state of thanksgiving, meaning that you use the creativity that the Creator gave you. You use your talents. You find out what those are and you cultivate them, and that gives thanks in action. And when we look at African Americans celebrating Thanksgiving, right? So some, African Americans get beat up for celebrating Thanksgiving, and But I think it's important to understand that usually when African Americans celebrate Thanksgiving, right, it's not that they are condoning the genocide upon Native Americans. It's not that they necessarily buy into the concept of what has been promoted to us as the first Thanksgiving. All right. When African Americans tend to celebrate Thanksgiving, we're thankful that we have a roof over our head. We're thankful for our family, thankful for our health, things like this. So oftentimes it's, even though they may have turkey and cranberry sauce and things like this, it's somewhat separate from the European version of Thanksgiving. And we're focused on being with family. We're focused on being together. Thankful for our blessings. Thankful for that we have food on the table. Especially this year. This year has been crazy. Now, unfortunately, it's dangerous to celebrate Thanksgiving going over other people's houses, going over family houses. That's dangerous. And the CDC was recommending not to do that, especially not traveling. Now, a lot of people didn't pay attention to the CDC because you had basically almost like 3.9 million people who traveled Friday through that Friday through Sunday before Thanksgiving, going through TSA. Okay. And you're going to see a huge, because of this and what's going on right now. And we know today, the U.S. had 200,000 cases of coronavirus, first time in history. 200,000 cases of coronavirus. So we've had, I think, 23 straight days of 100,000 new cases or more a day. So you're about to see this whole thing explode with coronavirus, unfortunately. And a lot of people were not heeding the warnings from the CDC about traveling for Thanksgiving. And it's going to be, unfortunately, it's going to be a lot of people who ain't going to be here for Christmas. People ain't want to listen. So, okay. You've heard me warn people about this. All right. But this is what's happening. U.S. reports record 200,000 coronavirus case a day, Bloomberg reported. And we see that we had 13 million cases in the U.S. of coronavirus, and also we see that the traveling for Thanksgiving is really going to help this spread. Thanksgiving Eve was the busiest air travel day of the pandemic, despite health warnings. Washington Post is reporting. It was the third time week that the Transportation Security Administration (TSA) is screening more than 1 million daily passengers, a now rare milestone for airports. Okay, so we can check this out from the Washington Post. Thanksgiving Eve, the busiest air travel day of the pandemic, despite health warnings. So, some people ain't gonna have a good Christmas. I'm just saying. Okay, all right, but let's continue here. Posted the link here on the thread of the broadcast, that article from the Washington Post. All right, so the next question was, and will your family do something for Thanksgiving? Ramona Peter, yes, we'll do the rounds. Make sure you contact family members, eat with friends, and we'll all celebrate on Saturday at the social and dance together with the drum. All right. So this story was originally published November 23rd, 2012. For Indian Country Today Media Network. Indian Country Today Media Network is at IndianCountryToday.com. What really happened at the first Thanksgiving, the Wampanoag side of the tale? What really happened at the first Thanksgiving, the Wampanoag side of the tale? Now, when we look at the National Day of Mourning, okay, I posted a few articles dealing with this on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. And how's everybody doing? Everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms, okay? Follow us at our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and on our YouTube, on Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP, on YouTube. Okay, and turn on notifications so you know when we go live as well. So subscribe and then turn on notifications so you know when we go live. I posted an article from new.com dealing with the National Day of Mourning. Okay, 400 years after first Thanksgiving, Native Americans honor Day of Mourning instead. So 1621 to 2020, but 1620 when the who we call the Pilgrims come here, 1620 to 2020. All right. So 50 years ago, Native American Wamsutta Frank, Wamsutta Wamsutta Frank James was asked to participate in a statewide celebration of the 350th anniversary of the arrival of the Mayflower in Massachusetts. Okay. So Wamsutta Frank James, who was the president of the Federal Eastern Indian League, was asked to give a speech in some form thanking the Pilgrims for, quote, bringing civilization to the shores. Okay, see, this is just insensitive. That's just they actually asked him this. Okay, he was the president of the Federated Eastern Indian League, and he was asked to give a speech in some form thanking the Pilgrims for, quote, bringing civilization to the shores, end quote. So the organizers asked Wamsutta to submit a copy of speech beforehand, citing grammar and spelling concerns. Wamsutta Frank James, who was the president of the Federated Eastern Indian League at the time, was a school teacher at that time, 50 years ago. But he obliged. He was a school teacher at the time, but he obliged. However, his speech was shut down and deemed inflammatory. I wonder what he said that was inflammatory. This sequence of events is what would lead to the inception of the National Day of Mourning. The National Day of Mourning, a day for indigenous peoples from around North and South America to come together and remember their ancestors who were killed at the hands of Europeans who arrived 400 years ago. Okay, so this sequence of events is what would lead to the inception of the National Day of Mourning, a day for indigenous peoples from around North and South America to come together and remember their ancestors who were killed at the hands of Europeans who arrived 400 years ago. I think some people may want to have a do-over. Okay. I don't think they are buying into this make America great again. If they would ask a question, what period of time are you talking about America was great? Because they probably know some times when this land was great. It was before 1620, before 1607. All right. So this year, 2020, on the 5th anniversary of the National Day of Mourning, despite COVID-19 concerns, people gathered in Massachusetts, as they have done for the past 50 years. On the day, many Americans will celebrate Thanksgiving. On the day, many Americans will celebrate Thanksgiving. The day after Thanksgiving is also recognized as Native American Heritage Day. In November is Native American Heritage Month. Okay, so Wamsutta Frank James' granddaughter, Keisha James, told Newsweek magazine, quote, a lot of people find the National Day of Mourning liberates the land we stand on. A lot of people find the National Day of Mourning liberates the land we stand on. It's really the only day where a lot of people are forced to confront the Pilgrim mythology and confront the ugliness of America and America's past. Okay, it's really the only day, and let me pull up the article here. Okay, it's really the only day where a lot of people are forced to confront the mythology, the Pilgrim mythology, and confront the ugliness of America and America's past. And it felt like this year, as much as every other year, if not more, that was very important for us. Now, Keisha James, the granddaughter of Wamsutta Frank James, who created the National Day of Mourning, okay, or at least helped create the National Day of Mourning. She is the archivist for the United American Indians of New England, the United American Indians of New England, which is an organization her grandfather started 50 years ago. Both she and grandfather are a part of the Wampanoag tribe, Gayhead Aquanah, Aquinnnah. She says that Native American communities have been hit hard during the coronavirus pandemic. So this year's march is also a chance to come together to share their experiences with the virus. In August of 2020, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, reported that COVID-19 was infecting American Indians and Alaska Natives up to 3.5 times more than white people. The CDC reported in August that COVID-19 was infecting Native Americans and Alaska Natives up to 3.5 times more than white people. Quote, all of our communities have historically had diseases used against us. All of our communities have historically had diseases used against us, weaponized against us, showed Newsweek. She went on to say, so there's also that added layer where we have Thanksgiving and there's a pandemic going on. And of course, the first Thanksgiving, there was also an epidemic going on that was killing off Native peoples. That first Thanksgiving is November 16, 21. There was also an epidemic going on that was killing off Native peoples. So each year, anywhere from 500 to 2,000 people gather for the Plymouth, Massachusetts, a site that has become closely associated with the Pilgrims' arrival. Keisha James explains that the Pilgrims actually arrived on what is now Cape Cod initially, and the story created around Plymouth Rock is a, quote, quantification of the Thanksgiving myth. Okay, a quantification of the Thanksgiving myth, a further mistelling of the events that took place 400 years ago, she says. Okay, so check out the rest of this article here from Newsweek.com. 400 years after first Thanksgiving, Native Americans honor Day of Mourning instead. And this article is from November 5th, 2020. Okay, the day before Thanksgiving. This is from Newsweek.com. You can check this out. We posted I think 3 articles we posted dealing with the National Day of Thanks. That was one of them. There was from and let me pull this. Let's flip back over this here. This one up here from News. This on our Instagram page, also Imhotep on Instagram. So this picture from the article. Okay, it's 400 years after Thanksgiving, Native honor Day of Mourning instead. This is by Schoenfield for Newsweek.com. And this picture here, this is depicting 1874 National Day protesters reclaimed Nog human remains were being kept in the Pilgrim Hall in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Native American Wamsutta James Center is pictured carrying the box. Okay, so that's from right there in the center. All right. Then there was another article I posted dealing with the National Day of Mourning. This one was from the Boston Globe. This is a good one. Also, now Time magazine, time.com has an article, 400 years After the first Thanksgiving, the tribe that fed the pilgrims continues to fight for its land amid another epidemic. 40 years after the first Thanksgiving, the tribe that fed the pilgrims continues to fight for its land amid another epidemic. Let me see. We'll try to pull that one up also. Pull that one up from Time. I don't know if I posted one or not. That was when I was another article I looked at. But Boston Globe had a really good article that I read. Native American Thanksgiving protest draws thousands with virtual event. Native American Thanksgiving protest draws thousands virtual event. In Plymouth, the National Day of Mourning observed the harm indigenous tribes suffered from settlers. Okay, and this was one we posted on our fan page, The African History Network. There was also one from a few years ago, 2018, November 2018. There was one from news.yahoo.com that they picked up from the Associated Press. Native Americans mark Thanksgiving Day of Mourning. Native Americans mark Thanksgiving with Day of Mourning. Okay, we'll give you that link as well. But very briefly, we look at the one from Boston Globe. For the first time in half a century, thousands of people joined together. So this was from November 26, 2025, 02 p.m. after the event took place. For the first time in half a century, thousands of people joined together for the National Day of Mourning, both in person and virtually Thursday afternoon, underscoring the impact the pandemic has had on another long-standing tradition. In rainy, warm weather, dozens assembled in person by the statue of Massasoit, who was the Native American chief there of the Wampanoag Nation, on Coles Hill, C-O-L-E'(S), Coles Hill in Plymouth at noon to reflect on the origins of Thanksgiving. A live stream of the event hosted by the United American Indians of New England was set up for people to participate from home. And then they talk about Keisha James as well. Keisha James, the United Indians of New England youth coordinator, who is Aquana, Wampanoag, and Lakota, said the National Day of Mourning is a time to reflect on the injustices Native Americans have faced since settlers arrived in America. She said, "We have our own story to tell in our own way. We want to educate people so that they understand the stories we all learned in school about the first Thanksgiving are nothing but lies." Now, at its peak, nearly 1,600 people were tuned in to the live stream. Hundreds of Native Americans have gathered annually for Thanksgiving Day protests since its founding in 1970, since the National Day of Mourning was founded in 1970. To Native Americans, the holiday is a reminder of millions of ancestors who died at the hands of European colonists over the past 4 centuries, organizers said. Keisha James says some Wampanoag ancestors did welcome Pilgrim with open arms. And what did we get in return? Genocide, the theft of our lands, slavery, and never-ending oppression. Because Native Americans were enslaved also. Okay. A lot of them are going to die from it, and many of them are going to run away. And since they knew the land, it was easier for them to run away and escape. The Africans who were brought to this land, largely, is going to be harder in general for them to escape because they didn't know the land, unless they had help. But Native Americans who are enslaved, they know the land. Okay, sound keeps going in and out. Just a second here. Native Americans know the land, it was easier for them to escape. Okay, so let me see here. All right, can you all hear me okay? All right, can you all hear me okay? Let's continue here. So she said, what do we get in return? Genocide, the theft of our lands, slavery, and never-ending oppression. Now, in decades past, many stories about the origin of Thanksgiving have been corrected by indigenous educators across the state of Massachusetts, with teachers and parents following suit. As part of a revamped education, every public school in the state of Massachusetts will receive copies of a new state history book co-written by Linda Coombs, Coombs, a member of the Aquinnah Wampanoag tribe. The book documents America long before the colonists arrived. The book documents America long before the colonists arrived. So I think that's when they were talking about America was great, because they weren't talking about America was great after the colonists get here for the most part. At the protest Thursday, organizers focused on the inequalities Native Americans still face in the United States. For example, the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe lost its effort to establish a sovereign reservation in Taunton, Taunton, to a casino after a federal judge ruled 4 years earlier that the U.S. government did not have the authority to confer the designation. Keisha James said, quote, 400 years after the arrival of the Mayflower, indigenous people are still denied the respect and the lands that are theirs by right. Change is long past due. Change is long past due. All right, now COVID-19 has also had a disproportionate impact on Native American communities, according to a study from the CDC. Organizers also touched on the higher infant mortality rates and lower life expectancy among members within the indigenous community. During her speech, Mattawan Monroe, Mahtowin, Mattawan Monroe, NOR, leader of the UAINE, criticized state officials for not voting to redesign the state flag. Criticized state officials for not voting to redesign the state flag, which depicts an arm holding a sword over the head of a Native American. Okay, the Massachusetts state flag depicts an arm holding a sword over the head of a Native American. And let's see if we can pull this up here. Which one is this? Is Boston Globe. Not banning the Native American mascots and not changing the name of Hall, Fanuil, which is named after Peter Fanuil, a merchant and slave trader. Okay. Let's see here. Posted this article. Let me see. Pull this up. That's the one. Okay, this is the one from the Boston Globe. Mattawan Monroe said, quote, let us not forget this country was founded on white supremacy, the widespread practice of slavery, and a policy of genocide and land theft. Let us not forget this country was founded on a white supremacy, the widespread practice of slavery, and a policy of land theft. Okay, she's absolutely correct. I want to scroll down here and let's look at let me see if we can pull up okay, there's an article here about the state flag, wbur.org. Let's on the screen share. Native American groups protest use let's turn this on here so you can see. Native American groups protest you test use of in figures in Massachusetts seal at school mass. Okay. Article from WBUR.org. That article is this article in the Boston Globe. All right, so check that out also. And if we go back to the one from the Boston Globe here. Okay, this is the one from the Globe. Because it says during her speech, she criticized state officials for not voting to redesign the flag, which depicts an arm holding a sword over the head of a Native American. And if we get this article here from the Boston Globe, the one I just talked about, this one here. Okay, Nick and Thanksgiving test draws thousands virtual event. Okay, this is from bostonglobe.com. Here's a picture of it all. People marched in Plymouth while being in the 50th anniversary National Day of Mourning. All right, let's see here. So check out this article here as well. Everybody doing? Okay, we got Jan and Toy, Night, say Night. How's everybody doing? All right, hey, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. So this really helps out being that we're here 6 days a week as opposed to just 1 day a week. This helps us stay on the air, keep doing the research, keep broadcasting, pay the bills. So because it's tougher doing this 6 days a week. All right. And then also you can donate at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Cash App is better than PayPal, but if you want to do PayPal, that's fine. You can also set up for a recurring donation through PayPal if you want to as well. All right. Let me see. Did I get to all the articles I want to get to? I think I got to. There was one that we posted earlier. This was from this is from 2018. We posted this one as well on Thanksgiving Day. Native Americans mark Thanksgiving with Day of Mourning. This is from the Associated Press. Native Americans mark Thanksgiving with Day of Mourning. This is from 2018. 2018. There's a little video here also. So we'll post that link here as well. All right. So we see how some of this history overlaps with African American history, and you have African Americans who have Native American. Some of us have Native American ancestry as well. There were some Native Americans who were enslaved. Now, the majority of those who were enslaved in this land are going to be people of African descent, but you're going to have Native Americans who were enslaved also. And let me see. There was also an article from usatoday.com. After a summer of racial reckoning, is America ready to learn the truth about Thanksgiving? This is from November 23rd, 2020. After a summer of racial reckoning, is America ready to learn the truth about Thanksgiving? This is by Aaron Dion for USA Today. And was there there was one that I pulled up here. Okay. Wasn't there one that okay, I think this is right here. This is okay, from theheal.com. There was when we pulled up 400 years after the first Thanksgiving, tribe that the Pilgrims fights for survival. Okay, that was another one. That's from theheal.com. So is this just on a screen share, we'll show you this one. I guess I can't remember, was this one up to the what? Where I just saw it. Where is Yeah, 400 years after 400 years after first Thanksgiving, tribe that fed the Pilgrims fights for survival. Okay. From TheAHNShow.com. As you gather around the table, your history. As you gather around the table, know your history. So this is dealing with the Wampanoag. Across the country, indigenous Americans fighting for their women, health, and life. This Thanksgiving, the Mashpee tribe is hoping to educate the public on the holiday that is one of several lockdown during the during the coronavirus pandemic. Okay, and this article, November 25th, 2020. So check out this article also from TheAHNShow.com. 400 years after Thanksgiving, did the Pilgrims fight for survival? All right. So look, hey, that's going to do it for us. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You know, we have the bundle pack, the Africans who were here before Columbus, the Africans who were here before Columbus bundle pack. And it includes a double lecture with Dr. David Imhotep, who wrote the book, The First Americans, Africans Documented Evidence. It has a double lecture idea with Professor Kabahai Khamenei dealing with the ancient African presence in the Americas. There's also a lecture that I did, Christopher Columbus and the African Holocaust. There's one from Dr. John Henry Clark, so one from Dr. Ivan Verma, then when they came before Columbus. So the 8 DVD bundle pack, The Africans Who Were Here Before Columbus, The Africans Who Were Here Before Columbus. It's AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay. So you can order that today. We have orders shipping out this week. All right, look, we have to get out of here. Remember, the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Right now, it's correct wrong here. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you Sunday night. Peace. Have you tasted the world-famous No Frowny yet from the Pink Bakery? If not, you're waiting. They are vegan and free of allergens. No Frowny brownies. The fabulous Miss Tabitha Brown said were very good. Very good. And you know, if she says they are. Bakery is the first black-owned allergen-free baking mix. Go to thepink.com, that's the.com, to order their No Frowny Brownie Mix today.
So my name is Kenya K. Stevens. I teach a class called the Diva Deep Dive. I take women from the small clitoral orgasm, African women call that the little girl orgasm, and bring them all the way up through the deep spot, G-spot, chakra, and full body orgasms. That is the Diva Deep Dive, and that's what we want you to have right now. The Diva Deep Dive is one of 71 courses found at Progressive Love Academy. You can get there by going to bit.ly/Diva Deep Dive, and I'm giving 50% off the course. It is Black Friday. It is Cyber Monday. It's time for everybody to have an orgasm. Get an orgasm for, for your holiday season. Come on. So that's it. Diva Deep Dive.
Yaya line African print-inspired apparel to the black community. The pieces include shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, jackets, dresses, skirt, activewear, bag, and other accessories and home decor. This brand offers a revival for men and women to wear their pride and honor their African anywhere at any time. This apparel line is for whether you're working in the corporate world, are an entrepreneur, and artist. There will allow you to casually let pride shine or dress as wanted. It is for those who have already embraced African fabrics and for those who are just getting into them. Reclaim and experience a part of our culture, colorful African prints. The clothing line and the accessory will right now start at $17.99. For more information on the items and accessories, visit yayarule.com. Revitalizing, restorative, indulgent, essential. Crea's Love Butter Raw Butter Collection. How do we know if products are truly delivering all of the health benefits they should? Crea's Love Butter, thoughtful combination of hand-selected ingredients designed to enhance the level of health. Crea's Love is an ideal gift for health-conscious loved ones and is a pleasure to give and harness the restorative raw shea butter and infused it with their love and for reviving skin that you will undoubtedly feel from the first use. Visit their website, creaslovebutter.com, creaslovebutter.com.